This is Speaking with the Enemy on the Ticats Audio Network. Here is Louie Butko.
Yes, the show is Speaking with the Enemy. The Enemy this week, the Edmonton Elks, who are in town Thursday night to take on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And to discuss that, we bring in 6:30 Ched's Brenden Escott. He hosts a full game coverage of the Edmonton Elks. And I would love to be talking about, Tre Ford and what he did last week. I'd love to start there. We're going to get there. But let's start with the big news of the week. Obviously, the Elks mutually agreeing to part ways with President Victor Cui. This seemed to come out of left field for me. I'm all the way here. What did you make of the situation?
See, it didn't come out of left field for those of us that were sort of closer to the organization. I guess there were some rumblings for, I would say, the last maybe 5 to 7 days that, in fact, this is the type of move that could be coming. He was away on vacation, as I understand it, for a couple of weeks there, and that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Tough to say. I mean, a mutual parting of ways, Louie, in the middle of a season for a president and CEO of an organization, that's there's more to the story here, and I know that in all likelihood people have seen Farhan Lalji's reporting about workplace conditions and that sort of thing. So while the team wouldn't come out and directly acknowledge that yesterday, I think that there's more to the story than they were coming out and directly acknowledging as well.
The Edmonton Elks, we know they're 0-9. They obviously haven't won a game. They got a record-long losing streak at home. But did a move have to be made? Was this one of those things that, we need to give the fans, we need to show that we're moving as an organization? Is this a move that just had to be made? Or, like you said, because of these other things that were happening in the background, this move was inevitable at this point?
The reason that I don't think that this is the move they needed to make right now, because of the on-field performance, is they just made those changes, right? They just had Jarius Jackson take over for Stephen McAdoo as offensive coordinator. Those are the kinds of changes that people were calling for, and if you listen to the fans, you're going to be sitting with them real soon. But in reality, we all knew that there needed to be a change on the field. The record, a clear indicator of that. So we finally saw that. We finally saw people's clocks get reset a little bit, I think, when Tre Ford was handed the starter's reins, and has flashed the same potential that we saw last year. Obviously, there's a lot that this team has to be able to overcome in order to win a single game, but Ford is an answer to that. So the off-field stuff that's come this week is it's pretty disappointing, I think, and this team is going to have to continue exercising an ability to compartmentalize and really block out some of the outside noise and that sort of thing. So I guess to get back to the original question, I suspect that there's more that's gone on here that meets the eye, and I think that's going to come out in the wash here soon.
Okay, well, we'll keep our ears open to 6:30 Ched for all the latest on that one. Before we let you go on this one, before we move on, on just the front office stuff, Tom Richards yesterday seemed to give a vote of confidence to his head coach, Chris Jones. How is that going over in Edmonton among Elks fans? Were they happy to hear that, or was that not the answer they were expecting to hear when it comes to the head coach, president, and GM of their football team?
I think it's hard for people to separate that the move was made for reasons other than the 0-9 record right now. So when you're looking at a team that's 0-9, you're saying, well, why wouldn't you fire the head coach and general manager? That's the direct causation of these problems. But this wasn't a move made because of the record on the football field. This is what I'm saying about things that contributed to a workplace environment that it's been widely reported now, even though Tom Richards wasn't necessarily acknowledging that was the case yesterday. It's been pretty widely reported that there's been a couple of different instances that contributed to that. So, we're pretty confident in that being the case. People are still wondering why Chris Jones has the vote of confidence. I understand where they're coming from. He's 4-23 over the last 2 years and counting. We're riding a 13-game winless streak. Like the obvious consternation. I get why people are upset, but they did double down on their confidence in Chris Jones. There's not a lot of people out there with CFL acumen that can come in and frankly, the situation on the field right now, I think is, it's not necessarily a direct result of Chris Jones. The team hasn't had great quarterback play. They haven't had the kind of money to devote to, Chris Jones needs to take responsibility, I think, for maybe allocating money better as they signed free agents and that sort of thing, certainly. But, yeah, Louie, I think to summarize, I will say that there's a lot of fans wondering why it was Victor Cui that ended up with walking papers instead of Chris Jones, certainly.
All right, well, let's talk about the actual football team. And obviously a big return back in the lineup. Am I led to believe that Eugene Lewis is going to be ready to go tomorrow night in Hamilton?
Yes, he should be back off the 6-game injured list, and finally, 3 games into his tenure, he ends up getting hurt, but it only took him one play, the 102-yard catch and run in Game 1, for everybody to realize exactly what Eugene Lewis's potential could be with this team. So they've sorely missed him. You know, I see him around the practice field. He's been in street clothes, obviously, for a lot of the last several weeks, and his energy there is noticeable, right? Like, he's out there coaching guys up on drills that he wouldn't otherwise be participating in, and so I think he's the type of not only player in the way that he can get it done on the field, but he's the type of leader that they may well benefit from having back in the lineup as well. And when you look at Tre Ford, I mean, they're not devoid of receiving options by any means, but when you can plug in a most outstanding player finalist, that's a pretty good option to be, just kind of chuck and duck and throw, I guess. If you need the option, Eugene Lewis is there to help you out. Much as we saw Kenny Lawler last year, and then, Kenny Lawler against Edmonton last week, another beautiful one-handed catch. So they're hoping they can resurrect some of that with Eugene returning.
All right, let's talk about the pride of Niagara Falls, Ontario, the A.N. Meyer graduate, that being Tre Ford. 12 of 16, 189 yards, a touchdown. He had that great rush as well, 50 yards and a touchdown to go along on the ground. A little bit afterwards, seeming to have called out maybe the play calling a little bit. How did this go over? We heard what Chris Jones had to say, but, good on the second-year quarterback for saying something.
I agree. You know what? He's saying, listen, I'm out here, and this is my first start of the season, but no, this is not my first go-around in the CFL. Like, you've got a guy who they kept the reins on. He threw the ball 16 times. He completed 12 passes, right? Like, it wasn't like they were struggling for offensive production in that sense. Now, from the perspective of a new offensive coordinator, I'm not going to try and integrate everything in week number 1 at the helm. I understand that. But tell you what, I love the gusto, so to speak, of Tre Ford to be able to say something in year 2, being like, yeah, I understand, but look, like, I want to push the ball down the field a lot more. And certainly, Louis, that the offense didn't have anywhere near enough of that in the game with Taylor Cornelius. That was captain check down, if I may say so. So to have somebody ambitious and wanting the play calling to look in that direction as the weeks go on here, I think is going to be super important here, because there's obviously kinks that Tre needs to work out of his game still, and processing things at this speed and what have you. But overall, he has flashed so much excitement that I think that in itself is reason for people to want to keep an eye on what the Elks are going to do in the second half of this season here. Not for the sake that they're going to flip it all around and go on a playoff run, but just, okay, this guy's actually the quarterback of the future, so let's just give him the reins and see what he can do. And what better time for that for second start of the year than for his homecoming back in Hamilton?
His homecoming back in Hamilton, the site of his only other CFL win, that being in his first game when they edged out the Ticats after starting the year 0-3 last season. What other bright spots have you seen from this team? Obviously, just a great first half of football last week against the Blue Bombers. Bombers are going to do what they do. They made adjustments. They came out as the better team in the second half. But what positives can Elks fans take from that last week going into a Hamilton team that's, we're going to get into the Scott Milanovich stuff, because I know he was a one-time Edmonton Elks head coach, but what do you think they're looking to exploit here against the Ticats this week?
Well, we saw a lot of success for them in the starts, like just start a football game well, and they've been able to do that, right? They stormed out to a 22-0 lead with a couple of their own offensive plays, and then capitalizing when Luchez Purifoy with a pick 6 on Zach Collaros there. So, like, the team's ability to get out there and get some momentum going out of the gate. That's actually been pretty impressive. So, I like that idea. The running game flashed some promise, and I think that Tre Ford's ability to move seriously unlocks that, and it gives defenses that reason for pause. That run pass option stuff. That's a lot of the plays that we saw them have success on. That Kevin Brown run for 65 yards up the middle. That's a delayed handoff. Tre could have kept that too, right? So these are the things that he unlocks because of who he is. That's reason for excitement, certainly. I think about AC Leonard on the other side of the ball. Jake Ceresna to me is really the linchpin of that defensive line, but not having a super strong year. AC Leonard suddenly is second in the CFL in sacks with 8. So getting after the quarterback, the veteran, the former tight end at one point in his, when trying for the NFL, now tearing it up in Chris Jones's defense. So, there's a couple of bright spots there, certainly. But as you highlighted, Louie, it's can this team play 4 quarters of football? They have proven over and over again they can play 2 really good quarters of football. And then when it comes time to make adjustments, I don't know if it's stubbornness with coaching. I don't know if it's inability to execute. I'm not sure what goes on at halftime. But this team has to find a way to grow up. And when they do, maybe they'll win a couple of games by the end of the year. Because now we've seen with Tre Ford at the helm that he can actually move the ball down the field.
Brought up Scott Milanovic, of course. How is he perceived in Edmonton among Elks circles? What's the general feeling? He'll be making his, sideline debut for the Ticats, or at least, the upstairs debut, depending on where he decides to call plays for the Ticats next week. How is he perceived in the city of Edmonton?
Well, listen, I don't think it was his fault that COVID hit when it did. It just, bizarre circumstance here. So when we talk about Milanovic, it's often with this kind of wry smile on our face, like, oh yeah, that totally happened. He was totally here. So by no means did he burn a bridge or where everybody's upset with him for going on to a different opportunity. Kind of a humorous footnote in Edmonton Elks history, in a time, Louie, where humorous footnotes are welcome, because there's been a lot of painful ones over the last 4 years or so. So I'm very curious what he's going to bring. I talked to Ceresna about it this week. He doesn't have a whole lot of a playbook or a scouting report on Milanovic, so it's going to be interesting to watch how that offense looks there from the Tiger Cats side of things, certainly. But no hard feelings out west.
So Chris Pronger, in the scale of Chris Pronger to Jerome McGinley, where is Scott Milanovic in public enemy list?
On the traitors list? Okay, well, Pronger's pretty high up there.
I knew bringing up Chris Pronger would at least get a reaction out of you, so I had to do it. Brenden Escott, I appreciate you making the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this, my friend.
Always appreciate it, Louie. Thank you.
My thanks to Brenden Escott for joining me today, and my thanks to you as well, because we could not do this show without your support. So thank you very much. Make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Speaking with the Enemy, or any of the other great shows we have for you here on the Ticats Audio Network. Speaking of Speaking with the Enemy, you catch a brand new episode as part of Tiger Cats Pre-Game, presented by Greenworks. And while you're listening, listen to the Greenworks Listen to Win during Tiger Cats Pre-Game. Listen live at listen.ticats.ca, starting at 6:30 on Thursday. And if you are listening, you could be listening for your chance to win an 80-volt 16-inch front mount string trimmer with a 4-amp-hour battery and charger. And that is just for listening. Make sure you are listening to full Tiger Cats game day coverage tomorrow right here on the Ticats Audio Network. From all of us here, I am Louie Butko. Hoping you have a great weekend. Go Cats, go!